I've got a bomb. Huh? All right.
The day is December 25th. The year is 2009. I'm 10 years old. On Christmas morning, I'm fortunate enough to receive many gifts that made my life either easier or more fun. I also received 2 games from my brother's PlayStation 3. Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands and Batman: Arkham Asylum. But I'm only here to talk about one of these games and how it shaped the gaming landscape. Prince of Persia allowed players to really feel like Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay, I'm just kidding. Batman: Arkham Asylum was a standout game in a year that was considered an all-time high for game quality in our lifetimes. Games like Assassin's Creed 2, Uncharted 2, Modern Warfare 2, Left 4 Dead 2. Amazing games that to this day have remained staples of the industry and influence games still made today. But something made Arkham Asylum special. And not just that it wasn't a sequel, this year did have a few of those. Shout out to Infamous. This game stood out to many because Batman games before it had come out and failed to deliver that immersion into the fantasy of truly embodying the Dark Knight. And at the end of the day, Batman: Arkham Asylum is all about feeling like Batman.
Oh, is that really necessary, Nick?
Let him work.
Batman: Arkham Asylum would prove to succeed where its predecessors had failed, with a tone, story, environments, art design, cast, and gameplay that engulfed the player in its world and interpretation of DC's Gotham, and more specifically, the corrupt hellscape where it keeps its most diabolical villains and horrors. Though it couldn't possibly have known it at the time, Batman: Arkham Asylum would go on to establish a new standard for action games and most definitely for superhero games. To this day, anytime a superhero title is released, comparisons are immediately made to the Arkham games in terms of traversal, combat, world building, and storytelling. Maybe it's just because I was a child when this game came out and it allowed me to scratch that superhero itch in my brain. Perhaps it was because of the qualities and design choices that make games what they are. That's what I plan to get into today and hopefully explain what makes Batman: Arkham Asylum truly a game that I love. As the game opens, players are immediately met with audio and visual cues that right away immerse longtime Batman fans into a world that feels familiar, while also setting a general tone for those who may have never experienced a Batman story before. Those people exist? What, they not watch cartoons? With the bat signal high in the sky, we hear the sound of a storm as the score swells with this ominous and booming tune. As we hear police sirens and radio chatter, the tension is already growing more palpable. The chatter fills us in on the events having taken place just prior to the game's opening. The Joker is loose and has taken the mayor of Gotham hostage. But not to worry though. Batman has already arrived and stopped whatever vicious plot the clown Prince of Crime could have prepared. Following the capture of the Joker, he is promptly brought back to Arkham Asylum, where he had previously broken out of. And it seems they took it personally, as security is stacked in anticipation of the Joker's return. The extra security may have something to do with the number of inmates also being brought onto the island from Blackgate Prison. Following a fire at the normal people jail, Gotham's most dangerous thugs are being stored here, with the costume terrors. This shouldn't be a problem though, as they are likely unrelated. Oh, Joker just said that they're his crew? They're chanting his name as we walk by. Yeah, how could this be a problem? Whether through observations such as this or his own, Batman makes the decision to accompany his nemesis through processing and see that he is delivered entirely into the custody of the asylum staff. See, Joker seemed a little too happy to return to his old stomping ground. Maybe he just felt nostalgic.
What? Don't you trust me?
On this walkabout, the game makes a point to introduce us to its world. We meet characters such as Warden Sharp and Penelope Young, Original characters created for the game by Rocksteady, who will play large parts in the game's narrative later on, as well as characters like Aaron Cash, a one-handed guard with ties to recent Batman comics from the time. We get to meet and interact with iconic Batman figures such as Jim Gordon and Killer Croc, who for this game was made to be a terrifying beast who threatens to, and how did he put it?
What's it doing?
I've got your scent, Batman. I will hunt you down.
Get that animal under control!
A toy collar won't stop me from killing you, Batman. I'll rip you apart, eat your bones.
What I found to be the best element of this world and its characters is how lived in it presents itself to be. In this opening sequence, there are no introductions made between the characters. Everybody here knows who the main characters are and what kind of histories they have. The game makes an effort to introduce the player into its version of the Batman mythos, but doesn't dump exposition or shoehorn introductions into the writing. I want to also take a moment to praise Rocksteady for the designs of these characters. For years, these interpretations of the Bat world have been my definitive renditions, Joker and Batman being the most prominent. Their designs are classic and timeless, but they feel unique to this world in a way. Harley, Bane, Croc, Ivy, Scarecrow, they all feel so in line with the style of the Gotham City Rocksteady set out to depict. Though some of these designs change over the franchise, each change is made to match the context of the game that they're in. Asylum's Scarecrow would have been cartoonish and almost silly in the world of Arkham Knight, just as Knight's would have been a bit grim and too sinister for Asylum. Anyway, back to the madhouse. The most important introductions made here may be the most obvious, as we the players are introduced to the Joker and the Dark Knight himself, Batman. While certain consistent themes are seen with these two across their many variations, each interpretation is their own, including Rocksteady's. From the moment we step into Batman's bat boots and begin escorting the Joker, we, the player, are given insights into Rocksteady's characterization of the Bat and the Clown. Joker is cackling and upbeat despite his circumstances, making jokes and remarks at all the staff he knows from his previous stays.
What's up, Doc? Pencil me in for tomorrow at 4. We got a lot of catching up to do.
Throughout nearly the entirety of the escort, Joker barely goes a minute without something to say. Contrasting this, Batman doesn't say a word. He does not engage with the staff or police, with Croc, or with Joker, despite the many jabs that he throws Batman's way.
Ooh, would you sneak in with your bats? Come on, tell me. Batarangs, bat claws, bat snacks.
The only moment that we hear Batman speak in this introduction is a brief moment in the elevator with the Joker. Batman asks him why he gave up so easily, and the Joker uses it as an opportunity to taunt Batman with the very chaos that he hopes to wreak in the world. In the face of the situation playing out around him, our bat-clad hero maintains a consistent stoicism. This lets us get to know our antagonist as well as our protagonist, and so the stage is set. Now behind the security perimeter, Joker launches his plan into action, assaulting and subsequently murdering the guard and doctor escorting him, while Batman and Gordon watch in horror from behind the checkpoint. While Bats tries to reach him, the game shows that Joker's lady friend has already made herself comfortable in the warden's office and has granted Joker control over the asylum. Batman Kool-Aids into the room, too late to stop the clown's maniacal schemes, but just in time for his own welcoming party. This would serve as the game's first of many tutorials teaching us the fundamentals of bat justice, in this case, combat. So, what better time than now to talk about Asylum's combat, even if you've never played the Arkham series. If you've played an action game in the last 15 years, then chances are you've played a version of Arkham's combat system. Arkham games established a combat system that allows for strikes and counters, contributing to a combo count. You strike the baddies and counter before they strike you. Counters do very little damage except for at the end of an encounter, and strikes do the most. As a whole, this system is uncomplicated and prioritizes style over depth. And you know what?
That's my favorite trip, man.
I think it's perfectly valid for players to enjoy a combat experience that makes you feel capable and, most importantly, cool. It's easy to understand, yet has room to grow throughout the campaign, such as new combo takedowns and finishers, as well as introducing various enemy challenges. I hesitate to say types because, with the exceptions of the Titans and the Lunatics and even the Plants, most of the thugs are incredibly similar in design and functionality, though these thugs are varied in how they arm themselves against the rubber-adorned beatdown they are about to receive. Some enemies have stun batons, requiring them to be vaulted over, and some enemies use a knife. I guess guns are just too quick. This system was so simple yet fun, that it has been seen spread across the industry before radio towers were on anyone's mind. The Middle-earth franchise, Mad Max, and even Spider-Man PS4 took inspiration from Arkham's combat. This combat experience is heightened to new bat levels with the free flow system. Once your combo reaches a certain number, you hit harder, and more crucially, you hit faster. Now able to seemingly soar across the room from enemy to enemy, dealing out traumatic brain injuries as you go. Batman has never felt more deadly, or non-lethally dangerous. That guy's fine, right? By allowing Batman the ability to enter a sort of zen state to accomplish quicker hits and more reactive counters, it grants a true superhero fantasy, though not without fault. Some of the animations take a bit longer than they maybe should, and counter responses are often delayed. This proves most frustrating when it damages your free flow combo, and it can sometimes prove difficult to regain that rhythm. Overall, it's a solid system with a satisfying learning curve. Surely you've heard plenty about the combat if you've ever heard a discussion about these games, so allow us to move on. Joker is on the loose after all. Following the trap that we sprung gloriously, we give chase to the Joker, who has seemingly made quick work wreaking havoc on the asylum in the short time he's been in command. Maybe he really did have this planned. Through an encounter with Zsasz and the Joker's smelly pant vapors, the game teaches us Asylum's limited but sufficient traversal mechanics with grappling. At release, these mechanics were all I needed to feel like the flying rodent of vengeance. Admittedly, after experiencing the growth of what traversal in this franchise would become, coming back to Asylum's movement and controls is...
It's fine. It's just fine.
This game is able to grant the player a level of verticality that immerses the player in the shadows just as it opens the world up to you. Following Joker on his chaotic trek through the asylum actually leads us right to him. Joker decides it's time to show Batman a sneak peek at what is in store for the people of Gotham. An incredible bulk of a man. This misshapen mutant introduces us to our first new class of enemy, Titans. This boss fight would introduce us to mechanics that we would use sparingly, as Titan enemies are dotted throughout the game. These enemies are nothing complex. Throw a batarang while it charges and dodge. While it is stunned, beat him. You might even go for a ride on his back while he flails around, landing comically intense blows on his smaller allies. The monster is too strong to take head on, but loves to rush in for a powerful charge attack. Because Batman remains the expert on annoying gizmos, if you time a batarang throw just right while the Titan charges, it will blind the brute while he continues to run into whatever may be in front of him, opening him for attack. Alright, now that we've got the mechanics down, let's put the hurt on...
Well, that was unexpected, wasn't it? Well, note to self, need stronger test subjects.
Oh. Seems Joker still has some sciencing left to do. There he is. We got him. He's even standing on a suspended container, nowhere to run. He's giving us a free shot. We've saved the day. Oh, I guess at least we would have if Batman didn't have that little hang up about not ending anyone's subscription to the worldly plane. How many more people die because of this, Bruce? Joker escapes yet again following our brush with Beast Mode, and makes sure to send us a link to his YouTube channel, showing us that he's now apprehended our trusted ally, Commissioner Jim Gordon. We have to follow Joker, but making sure old Jimbo is safe is now top priority. The clown is distracting us, and it's working. At this point in the game, it's important to remember just who Rocksteady is aiming to make us inhabit within the realms of their experience. Batman, the Dark Knight, the world's greatest detective, making his first appearance in 1940 on the colorful pages of Detective Comics issue 27. Detective Comics sounds cool. Someone should really make a brand out of that. I bring this up to mark our coverage of Arkham Asylum's other great entry into the gaming zeitgeist, Detective Vision. Eagle Mode. Wraith Vision. Detective Mode. While Assassin's Creed may have done it first, a lot of people would say that Batman did it better, and in a way that enhances your play as Gotham's righteous predator. Isn't it beautiful? I hope so, because this is how you're going to see a large chunk of your gameplay. Detective mode is the game's solution to providing the player a complete Batman experience, including his more intellectual, investigative side. Though I don't think anyone will hold it against the game for not going into full-blown LA noir mechanics of detective work. Some have criticized the investigations in Asylum as being nothing more than go to a place, scan a thing, find a trail, follow trail, find next story beat or arena. And that is pretty much what it is. Not that I think that that's a problem. This is an action game at the end of the day, and the idea that any detective themes made their way into the game at all is remarkable, and I'm happy to see it here, without being too much. The one criticism I feel I should levy against Asylum, and arguably most of the franchise, is the amount of time they lead you to spend within the view of detective mode, which for a game as artistic and expressive as this one is a real shame. Detective mode also grants Batman the ability to spot collectibles and collectible hiding places, environmental clues, and even enemies, and whether those enemies are packing. Within most stealth arenas, detective mode is crucial to planning out attacks and maneuvers to efficiently neutralize your enemies. This access to many locations and patterns incentivizes players to potentially spend the entire encounter not battling or picking off artistically designed thugs, but rather colorful red skeletons. This is only more deeply entrenched due to the lack of drawbacks to using detective mode. There is no timer or cooldown, nor debuff or any negative effect. You can walk around the map with the X-ray ward of a hospital on your eyeballs with not so much as blurry vision as a consequence. But hey, no one said Batman had to play fair. After finding our way out of intensive treatment, it is at this point that the full extent of Arkham Island is opened up to us. Hardly the largest map that came out at the time of release, this was definitely one of the most memorable. In the beginning of open world games, many developers fell victim to the curse of having too many resources put into the size of the world and not enough into its depth. Rocksteady could have just as easily created an open world Gotham City with a bland art design and no elements to add a feeling of depth. But instead, they put most of Gotham's criminal underworld in a box, focused on making the box deeper and more artistic, and locked them in with Batman. With a moon looming over most of the night sky, a gothic design lit by a greenish, almost paranormal hue creates a feeling of unease as you traverse through the dangers of an inmate-controlled asylum. This art style would solidify this title as the, quote, Arkham game with the best atmosphere. One of Asylum's greatest strengths is the way the world stays dynamic as the story goes on. Every development in the story is reflected in the world around you as you rush to respond to any new threat. Ivy covers the island in Titan-fused plants. Inmates knock over statues and build up displays over time for the Joker's big soiree. Even as you travel through different areas, the island maintains a consistent style, yet creates distinctive environments that make sense naturally. Go deep into the foundations and you'll see crumbling ruins from an aqueduct system dating back potentially as far as Gotham itself. In the medical building, you'll find a colder, more meticulous design showing a sickening history of barbaric practices against the patients entrusted to Arkham. The asylum keeps its roots in turn-of-the-century Gothic architecture. As I encountered numerous members of Batman's Rogues Gallery, I love seeing the environments and the vibe of the area shift depending on who you were facing. When facing Ivy, you're surrounded by pastel pinks and earthy greens, as if transported into a flower. Killer Croc's lair is a disgusting sewer of sickly greens and browns. The Scarecrow hallucinations are lit by an eerie yellow glow like his eyes. Now following Gordon's trail, we get an alert that our whip is being nay-nayed and we need to stop it on our way to save old Jimbo. On our way, we get to spread our wings. With the open yard of Arkham available, the player gets to feel the gliding mechanics in full force. Gliding in Arkham Asylum does not reach nearly the heights that it may later on in the series, nor the speed, but it is plenty sufficient for the size of the areas laid before us on the island. We rush to the Batmobile to find a mob of ruffians up to no good and quickly give them a talking to. We pick up the trail to follow Gordon, but the path is blocked by a locked door. Luckily, the Dark Knight has his tools.
Tools? Duct tape, zip ties, and gloves. I have to have my tools.
Gadgets are imperative to not only Rocksteady's game design, but also to the Batman character. Through utilizations of his resources and equipment, part of Bats' appeal is that he can conquer any obstacle laid before him. Rocksteady was able to get away with creating a condensed map by layering it and putting up walls around those layers. Walls that, through the collection of gadgets throughout the campaign, can be overcome. Some of these gadgets offer enhancements to gameplay through Predator mode, such as the explosive gel, allowing Batman to use certain walls' destructibility as a distraction or even as a method of eliminating these enemies from the arena. Other tools, such as the line launcher, offer very little enhancement outside of traversing areas of the map that are purposefully cut off without it. These Metroidvania mechanics have been both criticized for their shallowness and praised for what they offer to the level design and growth of Batman's capability within the story. My thoughts are somewhat split on the implementation. While I appreciate the way each gadget can open up whole new areas of the island, I do often find myself wishing more than 2 gadgets had uses within combat scenarios. While the Arkham franchise would rectify this shallowness in later entries, I can't help but feel like each gadget earned is a missed opportunity for building up a more formidable Batman. The Sonic Batarang, remote controlled Batarang, and the explosive gel all offer additions to the Predator segments, but a player could easily spend a better part of the game forgetting about the RCB or the Sonic Batarang. It's also worth noting that of the 8 gadget slots Batman has throughout the course of the game, 4 of them are Batarangs. Where's the diversity? Where's the creative design? This is a story about a comic book billionaire with a limitless supply of fictional technology, and 50% of the gadgets offered are different versions of the same thing. And one of the tools that isn't is an electronic wave puzzle. I recognize that this is a nitpick, and it hardly ruins the experience. I just felt that it was worth mentioning. From the trunk of the Batmobile, we receive the Boom Boom Bat Paste that allows us to bypass the locked door by obliterating an adjacent section of wall. Detective mode allows us to perceive these walls throughout the asylum, though not all of these walls conceal the next plot point. It seems that there's something else going on here on the island. I can't help but feel like I'm being watched and judged.
Oh, for God's...
Yes, it is I, Edward Nigma, the Riddler, and more importantly, your intellectual superior. My genius has allowed me to easily hack into your primitive communications. My goal is simple. You complete a series of amusingly taxing challenges and, well, you'll see. Ready for your first one? Good.
Since the first area of the game where we are given complete combative control over the crime-kicking crusader in a cowl, we are able to rip off a vent grate and find this. This little green idol has haunted the minds of Arkham players since 2009, when we were first faced with the collectathon of Batman's most insecure adversary, the Questionnaire. Wait, that's not right. Arkham Asylum is full of danger, of enemies, hostility, eerie vibes, excitement, and collectibles. Hardly the first game to have collectathon elements, and certainly not the last or most extreme. Arkham Asylum allows the player to search for interview tapes, allowing for more insights into the patients and staff of the asylum leading up to the time the game takes place.
Is this another one of those boring psych evaluation tests?
No, it's not. So, you're the famous Joker.
In the flesh.
Chronicles of Arkham, which lay out a plot told from the perspective of the asylum's founder, Amadeus Arkham, though not only his story but the story of the warden himself. Believing himself to be possessed by the spirit of Arkham and using that as justification for his own vicious killing of patients over his time at the asylum.
We were doctors, politicians, and teachers. We have been the organ cleaning the arterial filth from the city.
And if you're watching this thinking, wait, I don't remember that, that's because this plot point is only told through collecting all of the chronicles and never addressed again throughout the franchise. Even after the bastard gets elected mayor.
Like dogs, they only respond to discipline.
It's not the point. The final collectibles offered to the player are the Riddler trophies and the riddles themselves. Trophies are laid out in various locations across Arkham Island, some easy and on your way to the next plot point, and others hidden and tucked away, encouraging the player to search out all of Arkham Asylum's little nooks. The riddles themselves are brain teasers that tie into the environment. These often encourage the player to look around wherever they may find themselves and take in the decoration and care that Rocksteady's team put into making these locations feel real, as well as making it a part of the greater DC universe, with numerous references and Easter eggs to different characters and pieces of Batman's lore. While some of these riddles are obvious and easy to find, others require genuine thought, knowledge of Batman's extensive history, and exploration. I was determined to achieve 100% completion of the games this time through, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't still have some riddles to finish out. These challenges have solidified their spot of infamy in gaming culture, as in each entry into Rocksteady's Bat trilogy, they have doubled and subsequently tripled down on the concept, expanding their content as well as their context. In Asylum, Riddler is no more than a disembodied voice chiming in to mock you as you solve his challenges. Find them all and he gets caught, I think? I don't know. I haven't finished yet. I'll get to it, I swear. Gordon's trail leads us to Arkham's medical building, a hospital aesthetic casting a veil over some of the asylum's darker environmental storytelling. Rooms that have limbs in jars, evidence of inhumane practices, an uncaring environment. But we are blocked from the main entrance by Harley and the security gate, so we need to find another way in. The game will often pad its time and introduce more indirect paths by closing off paths to our objectives. We find an entrance through the roof that grants us access to the building through maintenance rooms and vents, also granting us access to talk about one of Arkham's most key pillars of the Batman experience: Predator mode.
What are you doing?
When I think of Batman, at least in a contemporary sense, and scenes that best demonstrate what makes him so effective at his goal of striking fear into the hearts of those who would victimize others, I think of this scene from Batman Begins. A group of thugs protecting an area filled with cargo, but one by one, something is taking them out.
What?
With each thug that gets taken out, the tension of the scene rises, and the remaining thugs feel it. They become more jumpy, their pulses rise, their breathing quickens, and they begin to feel it. Batman's greatest tool against those that would stand in his way: fear. That was what Rocksteady set out to accomplish when injecting the Batman experience into our collective veins, and it was oh so sweet. In the medical building's first arena, we swing from vantage point to vantage point, overseeing the armed thugs terrorizing the staff, them remaining completely unaware of our presence. Time to plan our attack. Barring any explosive traps introduced later on, the gargoyles perched throughout the asylum's architecture maintain a feeling of safety and retreat, allowing us to plan our maneuvers to slowly eliminate our enemies bit by bit. These enemies prove to be the most dangerous in the game. In a night where Batman faces killer plants, deranged lunatics, roided out gym bros, and beefy crocodiles, the biggest threat he faces continues to be good old-fashioned automatic firearms. Makes you think Joker could have really saved some time and resources. Should have just invested in some classic boomsticks, J-Man. Guns will melt Batman's health bar with rapid pace, while also causing a flinch animation, preventing any forward or aggressive movement while firing, leading to the best option when stealth is compromised to be retreat. It is possible to regain stealth, but the element of surprise is not so obtainable once lost. This very tangible danger incentivizes players to really account for the strength Batman fans love to attribute to the world's greatest detective: prep time. If you want to effectively eliminate the threat, you must remain in stealth for as much of the encounter as possible, or else risk serious harm. You must plan each takedown with precision and knowledge of your surroundings, ensuring that no allies of your victim might catch you in the act as you aggressively encourage a strict bedtime. You can also plan more elaborate methods of ending their consciousness. The inverted takedown allows for the epitome of Batman's skill set, snatching an unsuspecting enemy right from his post and dangling him from the air powerless, as a message to those awaiting a similar fate. Explosive traps, yoinking someone off a ledge, floor takedowns, the possibilities are numerous, and a system allows for creative improvisation. Even if you're found, the end is not necessarily determined. It is possible to once again obtain the upper hand if you're smart enough and quick enough. What is possibly equally impressive about these stealth encounters is the way your adversaries react to it happening. Typically, they won't just let their diminishing numbers go unnoticed. They react to your actions with their dialogue, and their behaviors will shift the more you terrorize them. Thugs who feel more afraid will often keep their guns more at the ready. They may take corners more carefully or even shoot at nothing at all. This is the fear that Batman thrives on, that inspires these criminals to think twice before committing any more crime.
What the hell are you?
assuming they do any thinking at all after this.
He's asleep.
Following our rescue of the hostages, they inform us there are others, taken away to different parts of the hospital. We can tackle these scenarios in whichever order we see fit as we navigate 3 different paths to the different areas of the building. This essentially means that we end up retreading the same ground numerous times as we save these staff members. This opens us up to discuss an aspect of the game design that I hear get brought up a lot, and that is the backtracking. Throughout the campaign of Arkham Asylum, the player will find themselves crisscrossing the map back and forth, following whatever lead you're chasing at the time. The map only has so many locations, which means you end up traveling the same paths again and again, revisiting the same sites throughout your playthrough. This method of game design, Metroidvania or not, is one of my least favorite methods of design. I wouldn't say I hate it, but imagine if in every dungeon within a game such as Skyrim... Hey, hi. Real quick, just popping in here. This is Editor Cade coming in to say I fully intended to show Skyrim footage going through the dungeons while I was making this point, but unfortunately Bethesda just came out with an update that broke all of my mods and the mods of a lot of people, so when it came time for me to record that gameplay, I was unable to run the game. So unfortunately, you're just going to be seeing more Batman footage while we talk about it, but hopefully that doesn't change too much, and hopefully you're enjoying the video. But blame Bethesda. They don't want to let their people have fun. You fight through an extensive system of tunnels or paths, cutting your way through enemies, making it to the final strongest foe in the dungeon, taking the loot the experience offers. Now imagine you have to turn around and head back through the dungeon that you just played, stepping over the corpses of the enemies you've already slain, leaving no one left to stop you or even make your journey back more enjoyable. It sounds awfully tedious and uneventful, right? Well, a game like Skyrim solves this by adding shortcuts out of the dungeons that lead either back out into the world or back to one of the starting areas. Arkham Asylum addresses it in a different way. As you play through the game, the island is constantly adjusting to the events happening around it. I spoke about this earlier in a visual context, but not so much in a gameplay one. As the story plays out and as you move through the space, oftentimes when you return, the space may be different somehow. For example, when saving the 3 doctors, you may pass through a hallway. The hallway is entirely clear. You save the doctor with your thrilling heroics, and on your way back, you spot a suspicious gift box. Well, that wasn't there before. I wonder what's inside. Out pops an enemy with a knife. A new enemy type, taking us by surprise in a very believable Joker fashion. This could have just been another boring trek through an otherwise unremarkable hallway. Asylum doesn't do this every time you have to backtrack, as then it would become predictable. But they come in at moments that I even forget about during repeat playthroughs, and I applaud them for that. Anyway, those doctors may not have much longer, so we should try to help out. These doctor rescues afford us, the player, the opportunity to stretch our problem-solving muscles, though admittedly not to any great extent. Each rescue is different with a different response required from the player. In order to succeed, you have to look around and work out the solution tailored to the situation. There are not multiple solutions allowing for any kind of improvisation. It's incredibly linear, but that's how most of the game is, so it comes as no surprise. One of the rescues isn't even a problem to solve, it's merely a surprise combat arena. Once all the doctors are rescued, Dr. Young steps forward with grave news. She has to get to the mansion to retrieve her research notes. It seems a daunting effort with the island in the state it's in, but Cash assures Bats that he'll get her there. Cash seems more than capable, so why not? I mean, what are the chances they get captured a second time? Right? With the doctors secured, it's time we continue our search for Gordon. Oracle may never forgive us if we fail to save her father's life. We take the elevator to the lower level, but something doesn't quite feel right. Batman is coughing? Oh no. Did one of those doctors give me COVID? I knew I should have developed a full face mask. Or maybe something else is going on. As we descend the elevator shaft, Joker taunts us, claiming we are about to face our fears. Somewhat of a vague threat. Could mean lots of things, right? Coming out of the elevator, the game wastes no time introducing us to our next costumed obstacle, Scarecrow, the Batman villain who uses the same weapon that he does, but for a more malicious motivation. We see the effects Jonathan Crane's toxin has on the people exposed to it as we see a patient, doctors, even a guard quickly lose their minds as they face off against any number of horrors. We can't let that stop us. Crane is hurting people and he has to be stopped. As we continue down Gordon's trail, more and more things start to feel out of place. This is different from the eerie feeling held by the rest of the island. This feels as though something more is going on, something darker. Things begin to feel askew. Literally, I mean the game's camera is literally offset as you progress through this section. Our trail catches up to our goal. We find Gordon, but something else gets to him first. Gordon, Batman's oldest ally besides Alfred. The cop in Gotham who braved to stay on a righteous path and stand against corruption. Gone. Oh God, what's Barbara gonna think? We failed to save her father. What does this mean for Batman going forward, for the city? What are we going to do, and how are we gonna stop the Joker? I gotta get out of this morgue. Wait, what? What's going on? These bags are moving.
Father, you should have stood up to him, son. Like a man.
Mom?
Help us, Bruce. Don't let us die.
When I was 10, this segment made me feel real fear. So, mission accomplished, I guess, Rocksteady. As Scarecrow's toxin takes hold and we fall completely into the hallucination, we are faced with a warped, fear-ridden version of our world. Pieces torn apart to create this side-scrolling journey against a massive embodiment of our own fear, against Scarecrow. Across the way lies the bat signal, a symbol of hope. Hope for us, just as it is a hope for Gotham, a way out of our own fear. We climb the course laid out before us, avoiding the gaze of our stalker, as now we are the prey, no longer the predator. Through careful maneuvers, we make it to the signal and we dispel the hallucination and our own fear with it. We're back in the morgue. No dead parents taunting us with our mistakes, no failures. Gordon, he's gone. Or rather, he was never here. I commend Rocksteady for this portrayal of the Scarecrow. As a villain who so often gets depicted in a cartoonish or meek way, after all, he's dressed up as a piece of agricultural equipment, he commands a very heavy tone in the subject of his stories. And this is reflected in its own way within the game, not just with its unique levels, but with the way it engrosses the player with skewed visuals, seamlessly devolving set pieces, and a musical score that to this day gives me the heebie-jeebies. And the symbolism of reaching the bat signal to dispel our own fear, the way Bruce does every night when he puts on the cowl. It's fantastic symbolism, in my opinion. With Scarecrow temporarily in the wind, it's time we end this chase for Gordon and remove him from harm's way. Harley has secured herself in a room with Gordon, surrounded by armed men, with a strange section of building, its contents obscured by fog. Though detective mode reveals that it holds a person? A patient, maybe? That's a problem for later. After eliminating the patrolling thugs, we find the position leaving Harley vulnerable, and we strike. It seems Arkham's big secret is the hulking luchador himself, Bane. Narratively, this is a compelling way to introduce a character known for his strength. It immediately puts the audience in a more unfamiliar position, seeing him strung up and drained of his strength, even of his dignity. The moment is short-lived as Joker sets him loose on us, but not before returning the venom to his body, making him the dangerous threat we know him to be. Mechanically, Bane's fight is nothing short of unremarkable. In the scope of the game he's in, the fight we have against him is fine, and he makes sense with the character, if not maybe lacking a degree of depth. Bane was originally created to be a threat to Batman, not only physically, but tactically, mentally. That level of rivalry is hardly reflected in a guy who angrily runs at us. At this point in the game, we've already fought a Titan enemy, and in terms of game design, I have no clue what encounter Rocksteady came up with first, the Titans or Bane.
I will break you, Batman! Then the Bruja!
No, Bane. This time I break you!
After showing Bane our car's submersible features, Batman says it's time we catch our bearings and we figure out what's really going on. With the luchador dealt with, Batman needs a quiet place to regroup and try to plan his next move. Clearly, stopping Joker won't work while he's on his back foot. With this, we began to head toward a point of Arkham Island known for the suicidal plunges taken there by the inmates. A testament to Arkham's cruelty carved into the rock itself. Bats reveals to Oracle that for years now, he's had a bat cave stashed away on Arkham Island, in case this exact thing ever happened, I suppose.
I built it years ago. It's best to plan ahead for situations like this.
How'd you manage to keep this a secret?
Because I'm Batman.
I mean, there's prep time, but how do you see this coming, B-Man?
I said, it's because I'm Batman.
Can we get back to the story, please?
Fine, continue.
In the cave, Oracle is able to process some more of the plot points and keeps us moving forward. And as Batman learns more about what's going on here, it seems like a good enough point to discuss Arkham Asylum's plot and its writing. Months before Arkham's story begins, Dr. Penelope Young begins work on a project designed to change a person's physiology to cure them of any insanity that they may suffer from. This project was called Titan. She undertook this project from a financier named Jack White. In order to drain the venom from him, had Bane tested on within the confines of the asylum in off-the-books lab experiments. This testing was done using plants found in Arkham's botanical gardens, causing mutations in the formula and bizarre changes within the plants themselves. One day, during a session with her patient, the Joker, Dr. Young is made aware that the Jack White funding her research was the deranged clown himself. Upon learning this, Dr. Young had a change of heart. She stopped her research on Titan and allowed no more funding from Mr. White. But never one to be left hanging, this led Joker to escape from the asylum, only to return when it best suited his plans to create a Titan formula capable of sustaining a large mass of mutant beasts to wreak unprecedented chaos on the people of Gotham. He spent months planning, threatening Dr. Young and her family, lighting a fire at Blackgate Prison to cause his forces to be brought to the asylum, employing the alcoholic, corrupt guard Frank Bowles as his personal agent, and finally, being detained by the big bad bat himself. Arkham Asylum was written by Paul Dini. If that name sounds familiar to you Batman fans, it's because he wrote and co-created Batman the Animated Series. He's one of the people responsible for creating Harley Quinn, a character with somehow more screen time than the Bat himself lately. Asylum's narrative plays out almost like a great episode of the animated series. The stage is set in a space that allows the players and the stakes to build and play off of each other, with the threat being those stakes branching out and affecting a greater Gotham populace. Also, speaking of the animated series, Kevin Conroy as Batman, Mark Hamill as the Joker, and even Arlene Sorkin as Harley Quinn just absolutely kill it in this return to their roles and go so far as to embody the characters and give them just the personality they need to sell us on the narrative and the world. Bravo and well done. And may Kevin Conroy rest in peace. He was loved by so many fans and will be missed. This plot can seem a bit convoluted when all laid out, but I think the way it's delivered through the game does a nice job of building the tension and reveals in a way that's satisfying as you, the player, as Batman, uncover the mystery. The story goes on to carry us across the island over various objectives and tasks to stop Joker in the end, tracking his Titan manufacturing, keep it from being pumped into Gotham, stopping Ivy's Titan-fueled crusade for plant domination, until finally we meet Joker at the end of the line. We'll talk about the ending a little while later though. Right now the priority is finding Dr. Young, the Dr. Bane mentioned. Last time we saw her, she had gone off to the mansion with Cash. Well, at least she had him to keep her safe. That way we won't have to rescue them twice, right? Making our way from the cave brings us up through Arkham's main sewer junction. This place could really use a city inspection. It's crumbling around us. How's a bat supposed to get around? Well, by climbing. These sections serve as a little diversity offered to traversal sections within Asylum, forcing the player to run, jump, climb, and shimmy to their next destination, rather than just grapple zipping right over. The mansion's gameplay boils down to a series of predator arenas and combat arenas, leading bats on a merry chase after Dr. Young and her formula. Joker's thugs rummage through the rooms, searching for the information their boss needs to finish his schemes. Not much happens within the mansion aside from moving the plot forward. We're here to get Dr. Young's research notes before the Joker and save the people taken hostage. We travel from room to room, following the trail from Young's office to find where she hid the formula. Once that's taken care of, we need to save the doctor. Who knows what nefarious plans Joker has made? Wait, this is different. This feels familiar, but not like anything we faced before. No, this is deeper, darker. As we walk down this endless hallway, we are subjected to its de-evolution into resembling a crumbling ghetto where Bruce Wayne lost a part of himself that he would never get back. As we rise and take on the cowl once more, we find ourselves back in Scarecrow's domain. This section plays much like it did last time we faced a deranged psychiatrist, but this time, Scarecrow is able to inject new skeletal enemies who shatter upon impact. This keeps the experience fresh from a gameplay perspective and adds a level of depth to the danger Scarecrow poses. More than just conquering our own fear, we are faced with opponents placed in our way that we must overcome. Our goal is the same as before: get to the bat signal, dispel the nightmare. We come to the highest point of the mansion within the clock tower. This seems as we climbed our way through Scarecrow's domain, we climbed the world around us. Does that mean those skeletons were
You killed that guy.
Commish, that head wound, it's gotta be taking its toll because you are making zero sense.
Anyway, after clearing out the path below, our path to the warden's office is clear. Zaz has taken another hostage, but this time it's Dr. Young. If he sees you, she dies. Using a batarang and some careful timing, we're able to neutralize the threat. Glad that's handled. Now we can get the doctor to safety and plan our next...
Get out of the way!
Poor Dr. Young. Still, you know how Mr. J hates a squealer. Talking about squealers.
Oh, somebody help me!
Another chapter, another detective mode trail to follow. Quinn has taken the warden, and in order to get into Joker's Titan lab, we need to save him. The trail we get from his DNA leads us to the penitentiary, Arkham's home for the most stubbornly rehabilitated. The most dangerous patients and threats to society are kept here even as the Joker takes control. We can catch glimpses of interesting Easter eggs and references to Batman's villains, and of all Arkham's locations, this one most reminds the player that the asylum is still a prison. The screams of those patients beyond help deafen our ears as their almost animal behavior unsettles our nerves. They bite and claw and scratch at their bars and walls, unable to control their own behaviors. On this trail, we find the cell of Poison Ivy, a character who has inspired ambitious would-be 3D artists for years. She begs Batman to save her plants. She hears them calling out in pain as Dr. Young's experiments have taken their toll. Batman feels he has enough going on, and he hardly cares for the survival of a few succulents, so he leaves her where she lies. Reaching the end of the trail, we find the warden where Harley left him, just above a cheeky clue to the ending of the sequel. And we see on the monitor that just after we left Ivy, she made the same plea for release to Harley. And Harley, not one to see a friend suffer, kind of just says screw it and lets her out. This act of compassion must have inspired her boyfriend, as he then chooses to release the entirety of the penitentiary loose on the island. Suddenly, dozens of crazed, violent, rat-eating lunatics are loose on the island, along with everything else. As an enemy, they offer little challenge. They will rush you and can be countered as long as you see them coming, and if you fail to do so, they will latch on, prompting a button mash to free yourself. With strikes, they hit pavement with only one hit, allowing for an easy ground takedown, but damn, they are creepy. I've seen a lot of criticism online about this game's depiction of mental health, and while I don't want to get into that too much or really address what the story was trying to tell, I think that the depiction that we see in Rocksteady's game is in line with what we usually see from Batman comics. While the health aspect of that notwithstanding, I think it's fair to the source material, and any criticism beyond that should be weighed against DC as a whole. These enemies inject a feeling of terror into the player, especially me when I played the first time, and even now on repeat playthroughs. These guys are so unsettling, and they add something different that even though they're easy to take down, they leave a feeling behind. On our way to the penitentiary, we are faced with taking down Harley Quinn, who's elected to utilize the electric floors of the penitentiary and add a challenge, and also her only real boss mechanic. In Harley's final fight, we merely fight waves of thugs on 3 sections of floor. One by one, these floors will light up before becoming lethal to stand on. The objective is to eliminate all of the enemies while staying off the zappy floor panels. Once all the enemies are defeated, Harley comes out to give it a go. Now the final boss begins. Harley's first phase is an intricate series of flip attacks, leading her to, oh, okay, Batman handled it. Well, her next phase will surely... Oh, you're done? Oh, that's fine too, I guess. With Harley out of the way, it's time to find Joker's lab in the gardens. Our next objective is to find Joker's secret lab within the botanical gardens. This location injects a breath of fresh air into the game by filling it with plants and living greenery, though even it is not immune to the environment that to this point has had a desolate and unfeeling aesthetic everywhere you turn. In the gardens, nature itself seems warped and twisted to the whims of the mad scientists and mentally detrimented. We follow the trail left by Harley to find the Titan lab while saving some hostages on the way. We catch our nemesis, who shows us how productive his efforts have been. These Titans aren't like the one he unleashed on us back in intensive treatment. These are less deformed, more stable. He's perfected his formula. These two Titan enemies serve as an effective distraction for Joker to slip away once more. After dealing with these enemies, we gain the line launcher through Bat Prime Delivering, which allows us to cross the many chasms littered around the structure. With Titan now fully developed, we have to find out how to counteract it. And who better to fill us in than the Rule 34 bait herself? We learn that the only antidote for the formula comes from a plant buried underneath the asylum, in Killer Croc's lair, beneath intensive treatment. As we move through the halls of intensive treatment, where only a few hours ago we were escorting Joker to be processed, we feel the tension build as I cannot express how incredible this sequence of the game is at what it sets out to do. Having faced Scarecrow twice already, a keen player may be able to notice the signs of an incoming hallucination and prepare themselves mentally for the next run-in with the Straw Man. But instead, the game re-immerses you into the scenario by causing in you the very sensations felt by all of Scarecrow's victims. Fear, anxiety, confusion, dread. In just a moment of game-breaking glitchiness and audio fragging, the game goes black, and our collective gamer brain shrivel in anticipation to see if the game would return. And it does. Only this time we're back at the beginning. And something is wrong. I can't quite put my finger on it. Back in the cowl, Joker kills you. And the tip screen that less skilled players have surely seen countless times informs you that it's your fault. Just use the middle stick, you dum-dum. But we never get our chance to solve that mystery as we find ourselves crawling out of our own grave for one last showdown against J. Robert Oppencrane. Through Paul Dini's faith in Batman as a sheer force of nature powered by will, he overcomes even the Scarecrow's most powerful toxin before he becomes a chew toy for our next boss, Killer Croc. I haven't spoken much about boss fights as a whole in this game because honestly, there isn't much to cover that applies to all of them. All of the encounters we have with more major villains each create an experience tailored to that villain. Though most of these encounters lack more engaging mechanics or knuckle-tightening difficulty, they create a scenario that feels believable within the world set before us and unique to the characters it places against us. Boss fights are something I don't typically critique too hard because rather than look at them through the lens of a gamer, I look through the lens of a Batman fan. Croc is somehow both the exception to this and the rule. Rocksteady made their Croc design one of immense size and power, an enemy that even someone like Batman likely couldn't contend with physically, so they didn't try to make you contend with him physically. Croc is a stalker, following us along as we trek wooden platforms through the sewer, collecting plant samples for our antidote. If we make too much noise or disrupt the water by moving too fast, Croc finds us and he attacks. The sound design of this sequence shines along with that of the rest of the game, in that when moving along the platforms, the score is often silent, leaving the ambient sewer noise to fill the room. You know, sewer noise was actually my band name in college. But once Croc pounces from the water, the music swells in a loud and alarming panic that immediately sends the player spinning around frantically trying to find where the monster approaches from. At this point, you have to throw a Batarang just in time so that it activates his shock collar, and down he goes. This section also includes some very Crash Bandicoot moments, but all in all, this whole Croc layer section highlights what Rocksteady nails most about their Batman story: tone and immersion. I've never played this section and not felt at least some level of actual anxiety. This ends in the encounter by leading Croc into a very clever trap of explosive gel and sending him on his way. In a while, crocodile. Joker is no longer the only threat to Gotham that lies on Arkham Island. Ivy's been juiced up on Joker's Titan formula, allowing her powers to mutate and grow in a way that have encompassed the island. Swarming the buildings and running through the foundations of the island, spores are rooted throughout the grounds that launch floating plasma balls that will follow you and stagger you for damage if you aren't careful. You can outrun these plasma attacks, or they can be destroyed by a batarang. And at this point in the game, the asylum is completely out of control, or at least perfectly in control of a madman. Lunatics and plants battle it out across the island, so a level of danger is added to traveling from location to location. While this danger is not overly challenging when taken in regulation, it can be overwhelming if run into head on. This plant-based escalation culminates in our conflict with Poison Ivy. As I mentioned before, the boss fights in Asylum are remarkable at keeping with the tone and characterizations of its villains, and Ivy's is true to that also, I guess. You fight mind-controlled enemies while a giant plant attacks with plasma while also defending Ivy herself. By defeating the enemies and weakening Ivy, we are granted the opportunity to place explosive gel on the casing around her. Eventually, this weakens her enough to add her to the notches in our utility belt, as only one more maniacal supervillain remains for us to face. The madman of the hour, the Joker. Joker is no slouch. He's put on quite the party, and we are his guest of honor. As we approach the visitor center, with construction now completed to more closely resemble our host, we are led in by criminals who, for the first time in the game, aren't attacking us. They don't even seem scared.
Let's see, A, no, that's not right. B, Bane.
Ah, here it is, Batman. Hey, looks like you're the guest of honor. Give him a big welcome, guys!
We're exactly where Joker wants us, and they have no reason to stop us. However, on this particular morning, I chose violence. Thanks for the warm-up, gentlemen. Here we find Joker on his constructed throne, where he has essentially declared himself Lord Supreme of Arkham Asylum, the Mad King of the Mad Island. We learn that Gordon has somehow been reapprehended after supposedly boating off of the island. I swear, no one in this game gets rescued only once. I'm starting to understand why Gotham needs Batman. Joker, disappointed in Batman's consistent ability to stop his schemes, attempts to inject Gordon with the formula before Batman takes the hit himself.
So, you want to play hardball, Bats, do you? Your call.
This forces him to use the antidote on himself, losing any chance he has to eliminate an immediate Titan threat. Joker continues to do what's called a pro-gamer move, leading us to our journey's final boss fight, the mutated Clown Prince of Crime. Our journey through Arkham Asylum and the narrative curated by the union of Rocksteady Studios game design and Paul Dini's writing showed us what superhero games are capable of. They proved that it was possible to immerse ourselves in the worlds and the roles our heroes inhabited in a way that could be both engaging and fun. Art design that comes right from the source material, performances and characterization that fully embody the heart of what these characters are and the parts they play in Batman's mythos, and satisfactory gameplay that includes combat and stealth mechanics that have aged like wine and remain satisfying and even innovative today, all culminate to deliver one of the best gaming experiences of a decade, as well as one of the greatest Batman adventures ever developed. With this in mind, it is all the more tragic that in a narrative driven by a character who loves to make jokes, the greatest punchline is his own finale. Since the game's release, the finale and final fight with the Joker have been criticized ad nauseum, claiming that it turned the Joker into yet another monstrous enemy that Batman must use brute force to take down. While I agree that this is the weakest boss fight in the game mechanically, I can't say I have much issue with it narratively. Joker is a character who thrives on chaos. He seeks to cause carnage and anarchy however he can. His plan for those ends in this story was to create an army of Titan monsters, but we foiled that. In my opinion, it fits within his character that when all other options exhaust themselves, he would say, to hell with it, and inject himself to take down the Bat and embody the chaos that he craves himself. I understand why many fans wanted a more traditional showdown of ideology or preparation between the two characters. Rocksteady could have built a high-stakes Predator arena with Joker being the final enemy that we face after clearing the room. But I also understand Rocksteady wanted to make a climax that is more action-oriented for the gamer in our brain to throw ourselves at. Besides, drastic Joker designs and retcons for the sake of story diversity and climactic tension are hardly new concepts to DC universes. Joker is the first person affected by the Titan formula who has retained the ability to speak rather than roar, and Joker's transformation differentiates itself from the other Titans and even Bane in other ways. Unlike those others, Joker gets a sick mohawk. He also got long, gnarly nails, allowing for deadly slash attacks that I could not for the life of me figure out how to evade. If Joker had persisted with these attacks, I would have stood no chance against him, and I think the developers knew this. Just as quick as my destruction suddenly seemed imminent, the Joker retreated back to his perch to bask in the spotlight of all the attention he so desperately craves. While I was left to fight waves of enemies dropping into the arena, at these points in the fight, while the Joker is distracted, we are meant to attach our upgraded bat claw to his now exposed spine and pull him back down for a stun and a subsequent knuckle sandwich. This cycle repeats until the fight inevitably concludes with Batman's explosive right hook.
I can take it. I can take anything you throw at me, Bats. You can't beat me. I'm actually going to win. Ready for the next round?
Always.
What?
I'll never let you win. Never.
I've broken every single bone in my hand.
What? Really?
Listen to me. There's nothing solid left in there. It's just bloody soup and bone broth.
Following its release in 2009, Batman Arkham Asylum cemented its place in the gaming culture. Superhero games would strive to the new standard, now understanding that they can in fact succeed within the industry. Asylum even went on to win the BAFTA for Best Game that year. And I think more importantly, this game impacted the gaming industry by impacting the players playing it. Everything from young teens getting into story-driven action games to seasoned gamers to longtime Batman fans to people who don't know a Robin from an Alfred. This game opened up so many people to so many new things, or it established a renewed faith to those who may have lost it in ever getting a quality AAA superhero game, especially one centered around the world's greatest detective. This game impacted me by reaffirming my perceptions of many aspects of Batman's lore, while also introducing me to totally new ones. I had no idea who Zsasz was before I played this game, and now I spend my time pitching to my live stream about HBO and Warner Brothers making a fictional true crime documentary about the guy. I mean, how cool would that be? Imagine making a murderer, but it's told like it's a documentary made in the DC universe about Zsasz. That's just my quick pitch. I think there are many things Arkham Asylum could have done better or delved more deeply into, but I'm saying that as someone analyzing this game 15 years later after playing all 3 Rocksteady Arkham games. For what they were doing and building a new Batman experience in a video game from the ground up, it was amazing, and they deserve all the credit for that. This amazing commitment to quality as well as a narrative-driven vision should most certainly be commended, as now, years later, the spiritual sequels to follow these Arkham games have been WB Montreal's Gotham Knights, the title with who my frustrations were the basis and inspiration for making this video, and the videos on the rest of the Arkham franchise still to come, and Suicide Squad, made by the same developers Arkham Asylum, City, and Knight. At the time of writing, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has yet to be released, but from what community insights have said so far, that narrative focus has gone the way of the dodo in favor of more looter-shooter elements. Or well, I guess it's gone more the way of the polar bear, as it looks like it still will have narrative elements, but they've definitely taken a back seat. Wait, I just meant looter shooter as like a general term. Why does Captain Boomerang have a gun? He uses boomerangs. That's his whole thing. I'm not saying Suicide Squad won't have a narrative or even possibly a good one interwoven between their looter arenas, but from what I've seen of the game, it's certainly secondary. At the end of the day, Arkham Asylum was special, and I don't think anything is going to change that. There are very few games from 2009 that I can load up today and still enjoy almost as much as I did when I first played it. But Asylum, I think, will always be one of those games that I really do just love. I don't really know what to say. Hi, if you're watching this, then it means you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching the whole video. I put so much into this, and it was a huge learning experience for me, as well as being just a love letter to this game from me, because this game has meant so much to me since I was younger. To be able to make this video and talk about all the reasons why I love it, and to have other people watch it and maybe connect with it, then that just means the world. But what did you think? Let me know how I did. Comment below what you thought, and let me know how I can do better. Like I said, this was a huge learning experience, and I really want to get better with this content and make better videos that people enjoy watching. I plan on making more of these Arkham videos, doing the whole franchise, but these critiques take so much time and so much effort, and I loved doing it, and I love that I made it, but I also would really like to focus on making other projects in the near future and being able to grow and learn from those projects as well, including the Suicide Squad game, which I am gonna have thoughts about. I already know. It means the world that you would stick around and watch this video and that you would take the time to watch it. So thank you so much. You're the best. I love you. Go get some food or something. What are you doing? What are you doing hanging out with me? I'll see you in the next one.